Hello and welcome to this, our third webinar in the home learning series. So far we've looked at how quick it is to set a simple homework and what that looks like for a student and a parent. If you're interested in watching recordings of those webinars, you can find them on this page. Like I say, we've looked at the simple homeworks, but let's take a look at how you can reduce your marking workload. My name's Graham Quince and I've been working with our schools to help create this home learning solution based on what you need and probably more importantly based on saving you time. What am I talking about? Well, I'm referring to Frog's unique self-marking quizzes which are built into the home learning solution. When you're building quizzes, which is what we're going to look at in this webinar, it might seem a little like we're transferring the work from marking to construction. As it happens, next week's webinar will show you how you can avoid construction altogether. But in the meantime, let's look at why online quizzes in Frog work so well. For students, they get to see their marks straight away, so they know how well they're doing, and this means homework doesn't fall into that marking black hole where they can end up waiting weeks if not months to see their results. And because you can set up feedback, students who get an answer wrong can immediately be steered in the right direction. The quiz system has some lovely analysis built into it, and we'll take a look at that later. And being Frog, these quizzes are easy to share with your colleagues, so your department can collaborate securely in your school. Finally, and let's not underestimate this, gamifying the homework experience. And by that I mean encouraging students to compete to improve their quiz scores is a great and natural way to incentivize learning. We'll be showing you a few other features in the next webinar which can really enhance that gamification. You won't want to miss next week's webinar, which I'll show you those games in action. So let's jump right in now and show you what the quiz builder looks like. So here you can see I've got my home learning product set up, and I've only created the one quiz so far, but we're actually going to start again with a new quiz. Clicking on the new quiz button launches it straight away. And now I've got this overview page which I just have to fill in, which will put my quiz into a database, making it searchable for later on. So the first thing I'm going to do is give my quiz a name. You can probably guess from my title that I'm going to be selecting this. It's actually going to be a Key Stage 4 quiz level, and it's going to be English. Let's just jump to the English section. Don't have to worry about topic or year group, only the ones that have been filled in. Now I could put some overall instructions in at this point, so this might well be how I'm intending the quiz to be used, because it can be used and reassigned multiple times, or I could just leave it blank. It's up to me. I can include a file, so if I've got a writing frame or if I've got a lexicon or anything like that, I could be including the file to be part of it. And if I happen to have my own YouTube or Vimeo channel where I'm uploading my own tutorials, or I found a really good YouTube or Vimeo video, I can link these in directly here. So when the students first load the quiz, this will be what they first see. But let's go on to start assembling questions. As you can see from this screen, or hopefully you can see from this screen, I've got lots of different question types I can use when setting work, when creating quizzes. I've got 4 multiple choice options here, and multiple choice is exactly what it says on the tin. I can have the students just selecting one or more different characters. I can have picture choice. I could have true or false, which just saves me having to type in true or false. And I could even have a matrix version where they're selecting different answers from a grid. I'm going to skip straight onto the free text one though, because I think this is possibly one of the more powerful options. And in true Blue Peter style, I've actually prepared some earlier, so I'm just going to be pasting these in to save a little bit of time. So my first question, as you can see, is going to be about prefixes. And that was the first part, and then use one of these prefixes to make a word which is the opposite meaning of the word responsible. And let's bold and italicize responsible so that it stands out for the students. And as it happens, I'm going to put in a requirement that I want the students to spell this correctly. And now, in my accepted answers section, I paste the only acceptable answer. Now, this is only worth 1 mark. It was only one thing that students had to answer, but I do have this marking accuracy option. So even though I've specified in my question the word must be spelled correctly, I could allow exact spellings only, I could allow some spelling mistakes or an approximate spelling. And while this question is quite limited in its scope and there's only one answer, if I had additional answers, I could just hit return and write in the other options on different lines. Frog would scan all those in, and if it detects one of those as an accepted answer, would actually give the student the mark. I can actually add student feedback at this point, and if I wanted to jazz up my question, I could add an image, I could actually have this question read out as an audio file, or I could upload a video of some type. Once I'm done and we're happy with that question, I can click save. Now at this point, I could edit my question. Maybe I've spotted a mistake, maybe I want to expand on the options, or I could actually hit duplicate. So I might well be deciding to change the word responsible for another word, so I've got the same sort of question. One of the nice things that Frog will do though is it will shuffle my questions for me, so I could have half a dozen of this type of question format, and actually all I'm doing is changing the word there and the answer there. But we're actually going to move on, and I want to show you a different type, and that is going to be a match pairs type of question. One of the things Frog is really powerful at is being a visual learning tool. So I've got a match pairs. The top row matches to its corresponding cell in the bottom row, and if I click on here, I can upload an image, I can add media, or in this case I'm just going to add text. Do that there, and elicit matches up to bring out, whereas illicit is forbidden by law, as I'm sure you all know. We'll have a couple more in here. Exalt. Exalt. And I could decide how many marks that's worth. I'm going to give that 3. I could again add student feedback, but when I'm ready I click save. Now what Frog will do is, even though they appear in the right order for me as the teacher creating them, Frog will actually randomize up those answers, and they will never appear in the same order for 2 students. And even if the students reattempt the question, which they can do, it will change it for them. Now finally, I'm going to take basically the same concept, but I'm going to ask it in a different way, and we're going to use multiple choice. And which 2 answers have the same meaning this time around? And I can select my correct answers. As you can see, I've put them in just in the top. Frog will randomize those again for me, so I don't have to do that. And when I'm done, I click save. So I've added 3 questions there. Obviously, I would probably go on to add a few more, and I can build up a bank of different questions that I can then use to find and create new quizzes from just from those questions and editing them as I go. And of course, remember, I will be showing you next week the bank of 300,000 questions we have for Frog Play. That's part of the home learning. But say I'd prepared all my quiz questions, I just now click save and next. And there we go. Here's my quiz. It's unpublished, which means it's not been used yet, and I can make changes to it at this point easily enough. I can publish it to school, sharing it with my colleagues. I can assign it out to my students. Or I could delete it if I needed to, or I can make duplicates. So I may well end up with different levels of quiz questions assembled from this one prototype. Once I go to assign it, I've just got to publish it first. Now I can assign it out to my students. I can set my due date. And my classes, and just like we did in that first webinar, in a couple of seconds I filled out all the information I need to fill out, and now I can assign that quiz, and that will go off to the students. They will then get to complete that quiz, and I'll show you what that looks like in next week's webinar. For this one, I'm just going to say that that quiz goes off to them as a notification. They can complete it both on their phones and on the computer in the browser. But what do the results look like when they come in? And that's the next thing to show you. And I think this is possibly the most powerful feature. Never mind the fact that we can save you all that time with marking the quiz questions. What does that marking actually look like? And I get two different views on that report. And this was one on a maths quiz for negative numbers for year 7. And as you can see, I've got the questions down here. There was some feedback attached to this question. And as you can see, 12 students got that wrong. Now this gives me a bit of an overview, and I can do some various filters and things on that. And I can download this as a spreadsheet. However, let me switch over to the matrix view, which I think tells a much larger story. So this shows me the results from my students per question, color-coded for right and wrong, obviously, and all the students down the side. I get to go through this and see if I can spot any patterns or trends. So I would say, looking at it just briefly, questions 1 to 5, a couple of wrong answers, nothing particular, but there's something going on with question 6. Lots of students have skipped the question. Obviously one student was absent. And we've got more than a few who've got the question wrong. So what's going on with question 6? If I click on it, here we go. Bearing in mind this is maths, negative numbers. This was asking the students to extrapolate it in a real world scenario. So we're using kilograms in measurements, and we're taking off 99 kilograms from that original race car weight. And there's a range, it's free text entry, and the students could have put that in a number of different ways. But ultimately, lots of them have got it wrong and others have skipped it. So there's something going on with negative numbers. And if I move through again, I'm not seeing any real cause for concern. I'm seeing a few skips in a few places. But if I look at question 19, I'm seeing a few more skips and a few wrong answers. So let's click on question 19. I want to look at this. It's another kilogram question. It's another real world application of negative numbers, and students have struggled. To me, that says my students are struggling with the concept of negative numbers and weights. I might be wrong on that. There might be, further analysis I can do. I've looked at this for 30 seconds and that's the conclusion I've come to. But maybe what it means is I'll spend 10 minutes at the start of my next lesson with these students going over negative numbers with weights and measures to make sure you effectively carried out a mini intervention and make sure that they've understood what's going on. And that's where the real power of self-marking quizzes comes in. Because I can do that level of data analysis, I'm not spending my time data entry. Instead, I'm data analyzing. And I think that that's one of the most powerful features that we can offer you. So that's it for today. Hopefully you found it useful. I'd just like to remind you of our next 2 webinars. We've looked at the building of quizzes today, but in the next webinar, I'll show you why you never need to build a quiz again. I'll also show you why you'll not need to set work for your students because they'll take quizzes on their own. The webinar after that is going to be looking at the reporting available so that SLT and pastoral staff have the overview they need. Hopefully you can join us for both.